All right, everyone. So here we are. Finally, here we are.
Yes.
Those of you who have been like patiently waiting,
Oh my.
wondering what's happened. I mean, we did a different time tonight. We had some technical issues. And so I know many of you we may have lost, but many of you we may have gained who might not otherwise have seen this broadcast. So I am going with it. It is all good because whatever is supposed to happen is supposed to happen because that's what's happening. So I'm not
Absolutely.
fighting with anything. We worked through our technical issues and here we are. We pushed through, we persevered. The Made Marriage Show, episode number 9. I'm super excited to be here with you. Thank you for those of you who are joining. Please say hi to us because we have been working hard with this technology stuff. Please say hi to us and let us know that you are here with us. Cheer us on because we need a little boost of motivation. We are in for a great episode tonight. So thank you for those of you who have been able to locate us. I know we did have a little delay in starting. We changed the time. We started late. Like how much can we jumble things up? But that's life. And that's marriage sometimes, right? Things just don't go the way you expected. Thank you, Chalise. I hope I said that correctly. Beautiful name. So yes, that's how marriage goes, right? Because this is the Made Marriage Show because we all know that great marriages don't just happen, that great marriages are made, and they are made by being intentional with the way that you think, the way you respond to things, the way that you behave and interact with each other. And so that's what this show is all about. It's my opportunity to interview amazing and incredible real wives just like you, and to really sort of get the inside scoop for how people make marriage work. Now, if this is your first time watching and you're like, who is this woman? Hello, I am Dr. Siobhan. I am an author now. I get to say that because I just recently released my first book. It's called Voices in Your Ear, New Conversations to Transform Your Marriage and to transform your mind and renew your marriage. So you can definitely check that out. It's on Amazon. It's on my website. And of course, links for that can be found very easily because I will post them at the end of this broadcast. And so I am a life and marriage coach, and I help women create happier and more loving marriages, all without having to make over their husband. We want to make him over. I know we want to make him over, but there are so many things that we can do in terms of our own self-development and self-improvement that really, when we take a look in the mirror, that's the quickest way to seeing a better, stronger, more fulfilling marriage and relationship with our husband. So that's what I'm all about. And I'm sure that we are going to learn so much from our guest tonight. We both pushed through to make this broadcast happen for you. So I hope that you enjoy it and that you find it valuable and that it was worth your time to tune in. So I'm going to stop talking now and I'm going to turn the mic over to my special guest to introduce herself. So you can just tell us who you are, what you do, and how you make your marriage work.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joni Odom. I am originally from the Houston area, but I now reside in Collegeville, Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Philadelphia. I had a marketing department for a company called First Line Incorporated. It's a hair accessory products company, and it also happens to be owned and operated by my father, so it is a family business.
I did not know that. Sorry. That's so cool.
Very demanding and rewarding all at the same time. So that's my background professionally. You asked what I feel helps to make my marriage work.
Yeah.
I would say, like, some of the typical things that everyone talks about: having patience, laughing, praying together, like being in tune with each other and making time, wanting to understand like what fills each other up. We know that our marriage is not perfect, and we do not have like all the answers. So we open the door up to personal development very early on in our marriage, and that really helps us to foster a behavior of constantly learning how to just better relate to each other, being relatable to each other. So we read books. We talk to friends, relatives. We ask what their secrets are because we don't know it all. And so we know we can constantly improve. And so I mean, I approach my career and being a mother, mothering my children in the same way. Like, we have ownership of the happiness that we're after. So, we're in charge. We own it. So, we have to not only look at, even when conflict, if we're in a dispute or if we're in a disagreement, we, have learned through the years to not just look at each other for resolution, but to look within ourselves. And it's still difficult, because early on in our marriage, I know that we probably did more looking at each other and saying, like, how could you have changed that if you had done that differently? But now I think we've kind of trained our thinking to reflect, a little bit more internally also, to try and see what we could do differently. So I think those are just a few things that, that we do, that I do specifically to make things work day to day.
I really like the concept of treating it like professional development. Like, it's personal development that, when you're at work, right, you get training, you get tools, you get resources to make you more effective in your job. But oftentimes we don't really look at marriage as that same lens. We're sort of like, this is who I am. This is my personality. Like, we should just know how to make it work. We should know how to relate and communicate with each other. Not so. And there's so many resources to help you develop yourself as an individual so that you can contribute your best self to your marriage, to improve your marriage. And I love that both you and your husband really do come from this orientation of, like, personal development first, because that is sort of the wellspring that will benefit every area of your life, motherhood, professionally, and within your marriage. So thank you for that, Joni. That was really insightful already. First question. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your love story? Like, I would love to know, like, how you came to meet and marry your husband. And I'm sure all of those watching would love to know the same.
Yes, it's funny. So Myron and I, my husband, we actually met at Johnson & Johnson right out of college. So we became a part of this FLDP program, which is it's the Financial Leadership Development Program. And basically, it was a 2-year rotational program where they rotate you to different operating companies within Johnson & Johnson, just so you have exposure to the business and different aspects of the business within finance. And so, like, we were great friends. Like, Myron and I met in that program among 30 or so other, newly college graduates. And so we was just like being in like an extended college, because we all got together, we trained together, we went to dinner together, we just did a lot of stuff together. But we did that like every few months, we'd come together to train, and then we'd be sent off to our rotations. So like my first rotation was Neutrogena in LA, and then Myron was off in internal audit, like traveling the world. And so we were all maintaining contact within the program. And then actually Myron and I both had girlfriend and boyfriend from college still, like in the beginning of the program. So we were still dating others, but we were great friends. And then I guess after a couple of years of the rotations ending and us continuing to rotate, and then we ended the program, and then we were at our hiring company, the company that was to send us off to learn and bring back all this knowledge. Well, that company we actually had in common. We were both at the same company. So we started dating, and we recognized that we shared some of the same interests. Like, we both shared a love for music, like different types of music. And we would like both, like, I learned that he burned CDs, and I was just like, tell my friends he burned CDs like that. Like I would literally was the girl that would just like invest in a whole CD, or even years and years ago, a tape. If I only knew and loved one song, and that was who I was. And then once we could burn CDs, I was just I was the one. And so when I learned that he did that too, and that we had all these other interests, like we love to travel, we started dating. And then it was just like, we actually kept it quiet because we were in the workplace. So we were like, we can't let anybody know this is
right.
Yeah, we can't be the couple in in finance work. So we kept it quiet, and so we tried to keep it a secret. But unfortunately, we got outed completely on a Caribbean vacation. Like, we were in the Caribbean, and it was during 9/11, which was tragic, so tragic. But the trip extended by 10 days, and so everyone knew, like in our department, that we were the only ones that got stuck.
God, yes.
10 extended days in the Caribbean. So it was all out at that point. They were like, oh, Myron and Joni had to call in, that they were stuck for 10 days. So we came back, and it was just like we were walking down, like when we were coming through the parking lot, we felt like everybody was just like, oh my God. We were like, We were like it was like we were walking down the aisle of our wedding into the building because everybody just knew what was going.
That's hilarious.
It was too funny, but we ended up marrying 2 years later. So
wow, great. So Joni, what would you say, as you think about this journey of marriage, what has surprised you the most? We all walk into the situation with our own set of expectations, the advice, the insights that others give us. What would you say for yourself has been like the biggest surprise, good or bad, about being married?
Well, I feel like in the beginning, like I just felt like it would be just this big long summer party with popcorn, movies, confetti, like every day it was just like to be this party where just magic, right? And it was the first few years, and it did not feel a lot like work. It didn't feel like, like I had to be conscious of anything. I was just, we were just enjoying life, having fun, doing what we do, and so it didn't feel like work. We had a date night every Friday night where we would just, each go back and forth on like who gets to choose what we're doing. It would be a surprise every Friday on what the date night was. And it wasn't anything extravagant. It was never extravagant, always fun. Like it could be like roller skating or just fun stuff, quality time. And, you had to be creative with whatever it was. Well, after we started having kids and more kids, it like, no one had time for that level of creativity, and
nobody got time for none of that.
Nobody got time, and then we didn't have time for every Friday, like, because that's just not even feasible when your every focus is your babies. And so I think that like that was an awakening for me, that like this is what they meant when they said that you have to balance and that there's work, and that you have to be conscious of still maintaining closeness and still, doing rituals to keep the closeness. And so because every waking moment for me, I was committed to my children. And so, and then there would be times when I feel like my roommate was feeling neglected, and, and he would be, very forward and tell me like, I'm still here. Like, and so I had to start learning to be more conscious of not just completely focusing on the children, and then that this is the work that everyone was talking about. That like we have to work on, we have to work on, as a mom and your dad, but we also have to. We can't forget that we're also a wife, and then also, beyond that, I'm also a friend, and I'm a daughter. So there's all these relationships that I'm now juggling with, because my children now fill up so much, so it's just like, it was that. But I think we recognized it, and then Myron recognized that he then would too have to take some pressures off of me so that I would have energy to give in all these other ways that I needed to. And so there was a time early on when we realized this. Colin, my oldest, like right at 3 months, Myron said, I'm going to take Colin, right when we transitioned the babies from being with, in the bassinet to the crib, he would take them for a week, and, and I'm nursing, so I have to do a lot of pumping in order for this to happen. But he's like, take him for a week, and he'll wake up with them with the baby during the night, every night, to make sure that I can sleep for like this whole week. And of course, after that, it was back to, me, until they can get through that, through the night without the nursing, then it persisted. But to have that week and to have him give, himself, and see that, okay, I need some pressure off. And then for him to institute that, and then for that just gave me like a sense of, okay, I have to also make sure that I'm giving in ways, because I know that he's trying. So we have to both try together, because this is.
It's all about that balance and the sacrifice and the give and take. Yeah. Absolutely. Since you mentioned rituals, right? So I loved how, you said like when we first got married, it was like a date night every Friday, then you have kids, and it's like, yeah.
Right.
What would you say are some of the rituals that even with your children, and for those of you who don't know, Joni has 3 small children. What would you say are some of the rituals and healthy practices that you guys have been able to integrate, even though you can't get out every Friday for date night now with the kids? What are some of the things that you do to keep things strong between the two of you?
Well, we still do have date nights. They're not as frequent, but we do have date night, like at least every once every month or two. We'll have a date night, and we'll we'll either go out just the two of us, or we'll go out with some of our favorite couples and just spend a night, just the two of us or with friends with the kids at home, safe and sound with a sitter. And then we can just like be together for just those 2 or 3 hours. But then we also will take a vacation, just the two of us, every other year. Sometimes we've been lucky enough to get it every year, but that's not at all frequent. So usually it's like every other year where we'll be able to just get away and just spend time together. And then we also make sure that we have healthy time away from each other too. So we have, we get away with our friends, whether it's like going to dinner or meeting friends for dinner or a spa day or him golfing or, whatever. We make time away so that we also can have, some healthy distance so we can remain well-rounded,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you both like practice self-care. It's such a common term to think about for women, but men need it too. They need their time to like have leisure activities, connect with the people that are important in their lives as well. That's great.
We also make sure that we and it's not, we're not conscious of it, but we also are often with like-minded couples, that we're really close to, that, that share similar values that we share. So that really does also, we just are drawn to couples that are, such. So that just happens naturally. And then we read books together, so I'm so excited for you and your new book. So I'm going to definitely be purchasing it. We talked about, Myron and I always talk about, I mentioned the personal development. We read books that just can help develop. And one book that we had read that really did help change us was The 5 Love Languages.
Yeah.
I guess we read that early on in our marriage. We also, I guess the first book we read was Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. That just showed us that, okay, we are very different. As men and women, we're different. So we have to learn each other and learn our different needs. And so The 5 Love Languages is another book that we read. And we do kind of practice a ritual of making sure we pick up some of the principles that we learned from that book. And we continue to, to carry them out in our day-to-day as often as we can.
Yeah, I just want to really underscore that because I know a lot of women that I encounter in the work that I do, they are seeking the resources, the help, whether that's through coaching or training or reading books. And they always get to this point. They're like, well, my husband won't do this. And so I'm sure some women are listening to you thinking like, oh, I could never get my husband to read a book. That's a practice my husband and I do as well. And it's so helpful because a lot of the times, we as women, we're sort of advocating and trying to get our husbands to see things one way. And he's not hearing it from us, no matter how hard we try. But sometimes when you give them like the expert and like these are people who know what they're talking about, that it creates new insights for them. And so one of the things that I would say, for the woman listening who maybe would love to be able to have that practice with her husband, but maybe feels like he's just not in that position, is put him in the driver's seat, right? So the idea of like sitting down with a book feels like work to anyone. Most of the times we're motivated as women a lot of the times. But just try to find creative ways. Put your husband in the driver's seat for that. Like, my husband right now, we talked recently, I was like, you pick the book that we're going to read. Like, I've offered some suggestions. Maybe you're not so excited about them. Like, you pick something that's going to really work for you. And then there's like audiobooks, right? So there's like, the world of audiobooks that brings to life words on a page in such an engaging way. There's videos on YouTube. And so for the couple that maybe would like to develop that practice, I encourage you to just sort of like think outside the box of how you can make it fun, right? Because maybe not everyone is into personal development, or it feels like work to them, or it feels like another thing to do. Find ways to just make it fun, even if that's finding something online. But I really wanted to underscore, and I'm so grateful and glad to hear that that's a practice that you do. The 5 love languages, hands down, I think every single couple needs to have access to that information. And maybe it's not reading the whole book. They have little cheat sheets online, which just like a 1-pager, you could print that off and talk with, your spouse about each of those 5 love languages, identify which one is either of yours, and then like make a plan for like how you're going to demonstrate love to each other in your love language. So it doesn't have to feel like this big heavy lift, but it is a very, very healthy practice to have. So I'm so glad that you guys are able to do that, Joni.
Great. Thank you.
So let me ask you this, right? So the great thing about social media, Facebook, YouTube, wherever someone is watching this video is, it catches people at all different stages in their life and in their marriage. And so there may be someone that is watching today, or maybe someone watching this broadcast will share it on their own timeline. So I encourage you to do that, to share this. If you found anything helpful or think that it will benefit anyone else, please share this broadcast. But let's just say someone comes across this who is really at a turning point in their marriage where they feel like maybe, things are a little bit hopeless. They are considering separation. They are considering divorce, and they're just not quite sure if the marriage is going to survive. I think every marriage faces that moment at some point or another where things just don't look great and it seems like easier to just give up. At some point, every marriage is tested in that way. And so what might you say to the person that is watching, that is in that moment right now? What encouragement or advice or perspective might you offer to someone thinking that maybe this isn't going to last?
Well, I first would say that, don't beat yourself up if you've tried and you've done everything that you feel that they say that you do, like the counseling, the praying together. I would also say, just as we just mentioned, the book, The 5 Love Languages, I was actually in a salon several years ago and talking to a woman, and this was how I was introduced to the book. She was actually in her second marriage, and she said that had she read this book, The 5 Love Languages, she would still be in her first marriage. And I couldn't believe it, and that's when I left, and I told Myron about this. It's amazing. We'd just been married a few years. And so I just thought, because we just had read the other, different book that was great, we were just in that mode and open to so much, development and learning. And so I went, we shared it. We got the book that weekend. We read it, and we read it again years later. But I would say, read that book. And I mean, if you're both open to saving the marriage, I would say both read that book together. And then I'd also say that if you feel you've done that, or if you can't do that, you just feel that's not an option for you because you've gone just beyond that and there's no salvaging the relationship, then I would say for some people, divorce is a new beginning. My parents divorced when I was young, but I still maintained a very good relationship, very strong relationship with both my mom and my father. And so it was an amicable divorce, and so we still took vacations every summer together for years after they were divorced. Like, they still were together. Like, I specifically have memories of these vacations. And I think that that was great. Everyone can't do that. They don't have the closeness and to be able to do that. But I feel like, if you're committed, to your children, and just because you're divorcing your spouse, still think about the kids and think about the impact that it may have on them and how you may want them to relate in their own marriages years down the line. So like, if you think you've gone beyond and cannot save it, I just think about the kids and everything that you do and how you do your ex-husband or ex-wife. Right.
I think that's really important. And a lot of times people feel like divorce is the escape from the problems that you're experiencing. And that's not the case at all. Like, if you haven't resolved the issue and the conflicts or accepted it and made peace with how you're going to live your life with each other, and even if that means separate, then those issues are going to stay with you. There's a quote I love. I always quote it by Pema Chodron. It's like, nothing ever goes away until it's taught you what you need to know. So I always like to think that any challenge you face in your marriage is trying to teach you something, and that if you don't learn that lesson, ending the marriage is not going to create the solution, right? You really have to reflect and learn and be conscious of what God is trying to show you in the challenges that you may face. And so absolutely persevere to everything you possibly can. And I think considering the children and keeping those children as a guiding light a lot of the times helps to sustain marriages and helps you to endure the rough seasons, because every marriage has seasons. There will be good seasons and there will be really tough seasons. So thank you for that. Thank you for that, Joni. Okay, so we are going to get into a fun part of the show, and this is where people get to guess how long they think my special guest has been married. So for those of you who are watching live, go ahead and start putting in the comments your guesses for how long you think Joni has been married. While those are coming up, we're going to continue our conversation and we'll loop back around because there's a little bit of a lag time with the comments. So go ahead, post your comments, your best guesses for how long you think Joni has been married. And Joni, I'm going to ask you a question now. What do you feel like are some of the things that you've learned in marriage that like no one ever told you, right? So people are well-intending, they try to give you the best advice. What are some of the things that you feel like maybe nobody really talks about, but that you're going to tell the truth about it and you're going to really help someone with sort of the insights that maybe you have gained in your own marriage?
I feel like, people always say that marriage is work. And so, but they never really expound on that. Like what makes it feel like work, what makes it, you have to, you feel like, it's something that, you need to, to work on day to day and be conscious. I didn't realize why. And I feel like it's because of the various stages of your marriage. Like you go through all these you have to navigate through a lot of different times and chapters of your life that where like in the beginning, you have to be nimble and to be able to adjust to all of this. Because like, for instance, when we went from 2 to 3 kids, it was a big adjustment. Like we were with 2, we were rolling, cruising, and then everything was smooth. And then 3, and it felt like someone just threw us like 5 balls, like, and then we had to juggle. And same thing with marriage. It's like when you're going through it first and you're just the 2 of you, it's like, you're just going through it's like a party. Then when you start having kids, it's like, you're still having fun. You're making your life fuller, but you're in this like hustle that's unending and you feel like you have so little time. And then eventually, but I haven't gotten here yet, but the kids leave, and then you don't want to be at this point where you have to reacquaint yourself because you've stopped dating each other through all these years of hustling and, having little time. So I just feel like for me, I didn't realize that that's what made marriage work, was just all these stages of life that you get to so it's not really the marriage itself. It's all the outside forces that are coming in and just changing. The environment changes and then you have to change with it.
Yeah, that is key, that it changes and you have to change with it. I think so much of the time we resist that. We resist trying to change. I love that perspective on it because it's really true. Like you can't keep operating the same way when, the outside forces are so different. Which makes me think of another question, and the guesses are coming in. So keep those guesses coming for how long you think Joni has been married. Joni, what would you say, since you and your husband are so focused on like personal growth, what would you say is a way that maybe you have personally grown by being married to him, right? So I believe firmly, and I've made this observation, that so many times we're like attracted and end up marrying someone who is like polar opposite than ourselves on certain issues or certain situations. And so what would you say is, an area that maybe you have personally grown in as a result of being married specifically to your husband and his personality and the dynamics of your relationship together?
I would say like one way I feel like I've grown or even just like become more balanced is I have always been a very extroverted person, like very social. Like I get energy from just being around people. But being married and like juggling marriage, this is just like in general, like juggling marriage, children, work. I feel like I now enjoy time to myself, like never before. Like I've never really appreciated time, but now I feel like if I get a few minutes of time with me, like I will enjoy it like I never had before. Like years ago, me from way years ago, I would be like, I have to call somebody or I have to go out with someone and I still, enjoy our social times, but I just also now appreciate the balance of also spending time with me. And another way I think I've probably changed as a result of being married. So like Myron is like, he's so much more relaxed and cool, calm. And so if he sees that I'm overextending myself and just doing too much, he will help me see that it's not that serious. Just relax. Just relax. Cool. Yeah. He's like, you're doing too much. Like you're signing yourself up for too much. You do like, so he will help me in a lot of ways see that I overcommit, and I like the social, I like doing all this stuff, but then at the end of the day, then, I'm overextended, and then I don't have time to do other things that probably need to be done. So he's helped me to see that, like him and just the balance of our two differences in personalities. Like he's not going to overextend himself, and he tries to help me to keep me from overextending as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We have that same dynamic as well, and I think too for the woman who may have the same dynamic too. I think a lot of times, we resist that because it's not our nature. Like we are multitaskers. We want to do a million and one things. And so maybe our husband's is trying to pump the brakes on something. And a lot of times when we have those differences, we resist and we sort of, look with an attitude at maybe the way he's thinking about it. And I always like to encourage people to really find the good in those differences, that they exist for a reason, that marriage is really a mirror to show you the areas about yourself that maybe you don't see. Like our spouses see our blind spots and they highlight them and share them with us. But it always comes from a place of love. And I think if you don't believe that, if you believe that maybe he's trying to control you or tell you what to do or trying to criticize or judge you, then it's really to offense from that. But we have to always give our spouses the benefit of the doubt that they are a reflection and really that they have our best interests at heart. And so in your example of, your husband showing you where you overcommit yourself, right? You see that as coming from a place of love and care and concern from you rather than him trying to tell you what to do or him being judgmental. So I think that's a really important point for anyone listening who's struggling with some of the differences that you may be facing and butting heads with your husband about, to always see the good and believe that he has your best interest at heart and that you have his best interest at heart as well. Yeah. So we've got some good guesses. We have Tamika, who is changing her answer to 17 years, duly noted, Tamika. We have one guess for 14 years, one guess for 11 years. Kalia saying almost 15 years. Kalia, are you cheating? Because you have all right. Then we have Tiana Odom, which is your married name. So she has got it down to the exact 14 years and 7 months. And then we have Marianne, who is my mom, by the way. Hi, Mom. Who says 8 years. So, okay, Joni, why don't you tell us? I'm pretty sure Tiana, who's probably your sister-in-law, right? Got it. Yeah. Pretty close, but share with the audience how long you've been married and making your marriage work.
It will actually be 14 years in October.
Yeah. Oh, so she's added 7 months to it?
Just a little bit. But she was probably the closest.
You are probably the closest. Yeah. So almost 14 years. So Shalise, she got it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep, almost 14 years. That is amazing. So congratulations. Congratulations. That is outstanding, Joni. So we are going to wrap up. Why don't you share a parting word, a piece of advice? Like, what would you like to leave our audience with from this interview?
I would just say, in your marriages, keep using humor and keep evolving and learning how to be a better spouse. Like, open yourself up to personal development. God isn't finished with any of us yet. So we just have to, be ready and find, as you mentioned too, Siobhan, find some type of, when you're in a disagreement or any type of disappointment, see what the learning was. There's learning in all of it. And so that's all I would share.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Joni. I am so glad that we got to do this. I know you are busy with your children's schedule and life schedule. So I'm so glad that you were willing to pour into our audience and share your insights for how to make marriage work. And thank you for those of you who are watching. So please, 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 if you found this interesting, helpful, beneficial, entertaining, why don't you share it? Because you never know who is scrolling through their Facebook news feed right now, needing a dose of encouragement or some perspective on marriage, and you could really benefit them and help their life by just clicking the share button, right? It's amazing. There's so many things I know when I scroll on Facebook, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad this person shared this blog post, video, whatever, because it really blessed my life. And that is my goal and our goal with this show, is really to bless someone's life, to encourage, to inspire, to equip, and to empower us all in the area of marriage, because we could all use that. So thank you all so much for tuning in. It has been my pleasure and honor to share this video with you today. I will be back next Monday, back to our normal time at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for another great episode of the Made Marriage Show. So be sure to tune in at that time. Thank you all again for tuning in. Share this broadcast, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.